Hello everyone. Today I want to show you how to develop a really simple service by using TDD. The task is really simple. This is just an introduction to TDD, and so let's go straight to the details. I want to create an endpoint that gives me some advice based on the value of an outside temperature sensor. And for example, if the temperature is above 30 degrees, I should go to the swimming pool. If it's between 15 and 25 degrees, I can go out for a run. Otherwise, I should stay at home. Since it's a really simple task, I will use Spring Boot, since it's also give me the first integration test, and I really suggest you to run the test as first thing you should do, because it is just tell you if the testing framework is working properly, and it is. So what I want to do now is let's just to check if the endpoint exists or not, and to do so I need an HTTP client. I can use the test REST template, since it's the easiest class I can use at the moment. I can auto-wire the client, and in this case I should call the getForEntity method. URL should be this one, and I can just use the string class to get an entity response, as you see, an entity response with a string type. So what I want to check, the easiest thing I can check at the moment is the status code. So I want the status code to be an HTTP status. Okay, since I want to check the successful response. So running this test, I'm expecting now a 404, since I still need to create the controller. Let's run the test, and oh, you see, I'm not getting what I was expecting. Now it seems the client, the test REST template client, is missing. And you see also IntelliJ is saying that it's not possible to auto-wire this class. Yeah, it's true, because I'm missing the web environment declaration, and I can use the random port. So this is the first advice. Run the test, and when you run the test, before running the test, you should clarify what you are expecting. And if the test result is not what you are expecting, stop a little moment and check why. Now I can run the test, and now I think that it should give me 404. And that's it. I got 404. I was expecting 200. And I know that it's because I still need to create the controller. So let's go and create the controller. The controller should be a REST controller, and I need an endpoint with a get mapping. So I want to create this endpoint, and at the moment let's return a string. So let's call it give me advice, and I need to return a string. At the moment I don't care about the content, so let's return null. And then I'm returning null just because here I'm just checking the status code, and I don't want to think too much to the content at the moment. Let's do it in a step-by-step way. So now the test is green, and it seems that this endpoint is an existing one. I forgot before to rename the test. So please give to your test a proper name. Successful response from endpoint. So I created this test, it was failing, and when the failure was what I was expecting, I fixed the code to make it pass. Now, what I can do is, for example, just to get a proper response type. I'm expecting a JSON response in this format. So here I need, for example, a message response, and I can create this class. Let's create it as an inner class at the moment because it's easier, and I can create a private final string message. Okay, so let's run this test, and it should pass. It's true, because here in the controller I'm still returning null, and I'm not checking anything in the content body. So let's, for example, get the body of the response, and well, let's check, for example, the message, and it should be equal to, let's take, for example, this message. And now if I run the test, I should get a null pointer exception, and that's it, because you see here I'm returning null. So what I can do is just to return the message response, and you can see now I cannot use this class because it was private, an inner class inside the test. I can do some refactoring. Let's put the message response inside the message controller. I should make it public, static, and so now I can use the message response, and here I can return the message response. The message is required, so for example, let's return this message, what I'm expecting inside the test. Here I need to import the class, and at the same time the message here is private, so I can, for example, create a getter and use it here. Alright, so run the test again, and it should pass. Oh, it's not passing, and that's because I got a JSON parse error. And that's it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm missing some JSON annotation. So you see, it's really important to have some expectation before running the test and fix the problem before changing the code. Okay. Now, this test is okay, and I can go on. I need to check the outside temperature when it's between 15 and 25 degrees. And I should get another message. But let's stop a little moment, because the purpose of this integration test, I think, is not to check the logic of the message that I can get from this endpoint, but it's just to check the HTTP layer. So it's okay to get the status code. Maybe it's not the right test to check for all the text messages, this kind of logic, maybe it's better to create some unit test directly for the message controller. So let's create a test in the message controller and create the first one. And what I want to test is this behavior. So I want to go to the swimming pool message when the temperature is above 30 degrees. So go to the swimming pool when temp above 30 degrees. Let's call the test in this way just to clarify the intention of this test. And so what I can do is at the moment just to create the controller manually in this way. So when controller give me advice, so the response, this is the response. And what I want to do is to check the message. Response and get message should be equal to this one. Go to the swimming pool. So if I run this test, I will get a successful test. And this is some smell that since I created the test and it is still passing without writing any code, maybe I already fixed this behavior in a previous test when writing the previous test, and there is some code duplication here. But let's go on at the moment in this way. What I'm missing at the moment is this. I want to get this text message when the outside temperature is above 30 degrees. So here I need to introduce the concept of the temperature sensor. I can, for example, use something like temperature sensor. I can create it in this way. I can create as class and what I want, for example, is that when the sensor and I need the temperature, so let's call it, for example, this method get temp, and it should be above 30 degrees, so let's return 31. I can now create this method. It should return number and return 0. Okay, I can also return, for example, -1 or what I want, just some kind of default value. And so when this sensor is returning 31, the advice should be this one. I can run the test and it's not passing. Okay, here says that when requires an argument, that should be a mock. Instead here I'm using the class from the temperature sensor, a real temperature sensor. What I can do now is this temperature sensor to move it here, and instead of using the real one, I can use a mock. To make it a mock, I should make it a component, and so I can use component, and if I run this test, now I get a null pointer exception, because here I was missing to extend this test with a Spring extension. So you see, again, it's really important to run the test really often to check your expectation. Now, this test is green, is a successful one, but inside the message controller I'm missing the sensor. There is no sensor here. But let's go on with another test, because the test now is a successful one. So I should not change my production code without a failing test. Let's create another test, and the next one says that the message should be go out for a run when the temperature is between 15 and 25. So let's change the expected text here, and I should go out running when temp above 15 and 25. So one of the first things you should do is to change the test name to reflect what you want to do, because it's helping you to clarify the purpose of the test, and it's really important. So now temperature should be between 15 and 25, and let's return a value of 20. Now I can run this test, and it should fail with a wrong message, and that's it. I got the swimming pool message instead of the running message. Now I have the temperature sensor here, and I should introduce the temperature sensor also inside the controller. Let's do it and add it inside the constructor. I can use the AutoWire annotation just to be really clear. It's not required, but let's do it. And now I can change the controller logic. So let's put, for example, this message go to the swimming pool as the default one. And now I should use the sensor. So if the temperature is between 15 and 25, the message should be another one, and I'm expecting this one, go out for a run. Okay, and I can return the message. Here I'm getting the temperature twice. Let's make it a little bit more clear. This is the current temperature, so I can use this variable here. And okay, I think it's enough. Let's run this test, the failing test. It's okay, and let's run all the test suite. Sometimes it's really important also to check if the previous test is still successful. And that's it. From a failing test, I got now a successful one. Let's check if I can do some little refactoring. For example, the message controller is there is some code repetition here, so it's maybe better to do in this way. Okay, so I can remove the code repetition here and here. After the refactoring, let's run the test again, and nothing changed. Okay, so next step. Next step is to check the last message I can get is the stay at home. Stay at home, so I need another test case. And let's call it stay at home otherwise. And for example here I can put 5 degrees. Let's run the test, but I'm expecting stay at home. Yeah, let's change also the expected message. And you see, I have a failing test, so now I can change the logic here. Let's copy this message, and what I can do is, well, for example, it seems like this one should be the default message. I can put here a check, a real simple one, to match the first test case. So if the message, in that case, the message should be go to the swimming pool if the temperature is above 30 degrees. Let's say here, in this way. This is the easiest thing I can do to make this test pass. Let's say it's true. Okay, so I can run all the test suite and I check all the logic. Don't forget to check also the corner cases, like this one. So for example, what if I put 30 degrees? I should get, let's see the message, this one, stay at home. So inside the stay at home, I can also check the return type, return 30 degrees, and what I'm expecting is still this message. Let's do a little refactoring here. And it should pass. That's it. What if the temperature is 15 and 25? I should get the go out for a run message. So here, for example, I can return and check also 15 and 25. Let's call this method other 2 times. And run the test. And this time the test is failing. I got stay at home instead of the message, the expected message, and it's failing in this case. Let's check the controller. And it's true. I forgot the equal here and here. Run the test again, and it should pass now. Okay. Run all the test suite, and that's it. All the logic is the right one, and well, it seems it's done. What if I run again the integration test? Okay, the integration test is now failing. Yeah, you see, I was checking here the message, but I'm checking the message in the unit test for the message controller, so this is a code repetition. I can get rid of this test, this check. And Now this test should pass, but the purpose of this test, I was saying, that is to check the HTTP layer. So for example, what if the sensor is giving me some error, it's not possible to read the value or something like so. So let's check for error reading the sensor. So let's check inside this integration test the error handling. I still need a response, and what I want, for example, if there is an error reading the sensor, I want the status code to be, well, it can be an internal server error, but let's say, for example, service unavailable, just for the purpose of this demo. Running this test, I should get now another response, because I got 200 instead of 503. Because here I'm using the real temperature sensor, and it's always returning the value -1. It's like the temperature sensor is always returning a successful value that is possible to read the sensor. I can, for example, instead of returning -1, use, for example, a random next int. But let's, for example, saying that this temperature sensor is some class that I'm not managing directly, or for example, here I just want to check a proper error handling to mock the behavior of this sensor. And yeah, so what I can do is, for example, to use the spy bean. So this means that in the successful response I will get a proper reading, but here I just want to throw an exception when I try to read the sensor. Let's use it, and I will return an exception, error reading the sensor, when I'm using the get temp method from the sensor class. And in that case I will get an internal server error instead of service unavailable, and that's it. What I can do is, inside the message controller, to use the exception handler for the runtime exception and return let's return a string just because it's easier. Now, well, let's give a proper name also to this method, handling sensor errors. And for example, let's return the exception message. Well, let's do it properly. Let's return null, and here I need to check the service unavailable status code. I can run this test, and let's see. Oh, now I'm getting 200. Let's see. Yeah, I forgot to put here also the status, response status, and it should be service unavailable. Let's run the test again, and that's it. I'm getting what I'm expecting. But let's check, for example, also the response, the body of the response, and I want this. the exception message. Run the test, and it's failing. I'm getting null. Instead, I want the error message. And that's it. You see, I was at first already returning the message, but there was no test checking the body. So I had to delete the code without a proper test, and now I can use the message from the exception, because I also have something checking the error. Let's check, for example, here the message. Okay, it's in JSON parse error. Let's check why. Yeah, here I'm expecting a string, and here also I'm expecting a string, and now it should succeed. That's it. You see how important it is to have some expectation before running the test. And I think that's it. You can also create some tests from the temperature sensor, but at the moment it autoscope just for this demo. So, just to summarize a little bit, start your application writing the integration test. You should have really clear the purpose of every test. Integration test, unit test. Inside the unit test, you should check the logic. Inside the integration test, it's not required to check all the logic of the application. And do it in a step-by-step way. Solve a problem, a really simple one, instead of trying to write the code that will solve all the feature. In a step-by-step way, you will do something really simple, and you will see that your code will be easier to read, to maintain, and also you will do it in a really easy way. I hope you enjoyed this demo, and well, see you soon.